Welcome everyone to a groundbreaking webinar series on inclusion, diversity, equity, and accessibility, presented by Gaining Vision 2020 in partnership with Connect for Life Charity. I'm Sean Pickard, and we are excited to bring you this transformative series of sessions that explore the interconnected themes of inclusion, diversity, equity, and accessibility. Our mission is to create a platform that celebrates the uniqueness of individuals, promotes equitable practices, and ensures accessibility for all. Join us as we delve into thought-provoking conversations, exchange insights, and learn from experts in the field, all with the aim of fostering a more inclusive, diverse, and accessible society. Welcome to I.D.E.A. Do you know what this means? We like to start each session by acknowledging the land in which we call home. Gaining Vision 2020 acknowledges the lands which constitute the present-day City of Mississauga as being part of the treaty and traditional territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, the Huron-Wendat and Wyandot Nations. Gaining Vision 2020 recognizes these people and their ancestors as people who inhabited the land since time immemorial. The City of Mississauga is home to many global Indigenous peoples. Gaining Vision 2020 is actively working towards reconciliation by confronting our past and our present, providing space for Indigenous peoples within their territory to recognize and uphold their treaty rights, and to support Indigenous peoples. Gaining Vision 2020 formally recognizes the Anishinaabe origins of our name and continue to make Mississauga a safe space for all Indigenous peoples. Melanie Malo is a seasoned educator with 25 years of experience and a passionate advocate for inclusion, diversity, equity, and accessibility. As an I.D.E.A specialist, she has been a trusted consultant in these vital areas, offering her expertise to organizations seeking to create inclusive environments with over a decade of experience facilitating workshops and trainings for professionals. Melanie has honed her skills in empowering individuals and fostering positive change. Ladies and gentlemen, here to speak about I.D.E.A fundamentals, Melanie Malo.
Thanks so much, Sean, and welcome to everyone. I would like to just set the stage and express that all of us are coming today to different platforms from different experiences and different expertise, let's say. Some of you may be professionally involved in I.D.E.A concepts, where others may be brand new. I will encourage everyone to not allow guilt and shame creep into the conversation. We'll be talking about many different things that could be triggering, that may cause some emotions, and I encourage you to sit with uncomfortable feelings for a minute, but please do what's best for you to take care of yourself. If you need to pause the video at any time, take a deep breath. We'll be here for you, so please come back when you're ready. Sean, I'm so excited about this conversation.
Well, let's find out what we're doing today.
All right.
The intention of today's session is empowering change, unveiling the fundamentals of inclusion, diversity, equity, and accessibility. We have a couple of objectives for that, Melanie, and our first objective is understand the core concepts. Provide people with a comprehensive understanding of the core concepts of inclusion, diversity, equity, and accessibility. Clarify the definitions, explore their interconnectedness, and highlight their significance in creating inclusive environments. The second thing we would like to do today is to highlight the power of representation. Emphasize the importance of representation in fostering inclusivity. Discuss the impact of diverse perspectives and experiences, and explore strategies for promoting diverse voices and representation in various contexts, such as workplaces, communities, and media. Our third objective is to cultivate awareness and sensitivity. Raise awareness about biases, stereotypes, and barriers that hinder inclusion and accessibility. Facilitate discussions on recognizing and challenging unconscious biases, fostering empathy, and cultivating a culture of respect and acceptance. Our fourth objective is to provide practical tools and strategies to equip people with the habits, the tools, the strategies, resources to promote diversity, equity, and accessibility. We would like to share best practices for implementing inclusive policies, designing accessible spaces, and creating opportunities for underrepresented groups, empower participants to take meaningful action in their personal and professional lives.
Wow, it sounds like we're going to be accomplishing a lot, Sean.
There's a lot going on there, Melanie.
All right. Well, I think we better get to it. What do you think?
I think we need to.
Okay.
And I think the first thing we need to do is really take a look at what does diversity look like.
Yes.
So we have a picture here for everyone, Melanie.
Okay.
And in this picture, we've got 4 groups of people. The first we'll call Group A. We have 4 individuals that are blue.
Blue. Okay.
In Group B, we have 5 individuals, but 1 is blue, 1 is orange, 1 is green, 1 is red, and the last one is yellow. In Group C, we have 6 people. 2 of these individuals are blue, 2 are red, 1 is green, and 1 is yellow.
Okay.
Now in Group D, we have 1 individual that is blue, 1 individual that is red, another that is green, an individual that is yellow, someone that is black, an individual that is purple, and finally a brown individual. There's a couple of diverse groups there.
Oh, well, Sean, out of these 4 groups, which one would you say best represents diversity to you?
To me, I look at Group D as being the best representation of diversity.
Oh, okay. And why did you select Group D?
It's the most colorful one. It has the most diverse colors in it.
Okay. So would you be surprised if I told you that, in fact, all of these groups are diverse?
I would be a little surprised.
Even all the one with all the same colors?
Yeah, we have 4 individuals that are all blue.
That's right. But here's the great thing, is diversity is about the individual. And every person, even if we all look the same, are different. We have different elements. There's different intersectionalities, different parts of us that make us unique. And that's what diversity is all about. When people think about diversity, a lot of times they look at the skin color, they look at gender, they look at the very physical attributes. But really, when we're talking about diversity, we're talking about individuals and their makeup. So you can never judge a book by its cover. You can never judge a group of people by its cover. And that's why we have to understand the difference between diversity and representation.
That's a very important point. And so it really comes down to, for example, Group A, the 4 individuals that are blue, it's about the person, not what's on the outside.
You got it. Absolutely.
Okay. That is something a lot of people need to keep in mind.
Yes.
So looking at some of the I.D.E.A fundamentals terminology, Melanie, this slide that we have here, we've got a picture of, it looks like someone greeting someone at the front door with a cake.
Okay.
And a couple of definitions that we have here. Diversity is about the individual. It's about the variety of unique dimensions and qualities and characteristics we all possess. What do you think, Melanie?
I like to think of diversity as the mix. We have so many different characteristics and dimensions of ourselves that really, truly, diversity is the mix. And when you think about a group of people, it could be diverse, and it's the mix of people. So I like to think of it as the mix.
That's a very good point. And that brings us to representation. Now, representation focuses on visible differences such as skin color, gender, disability, or other visible differences. But representation is an important subset of diversity. However, representation is not diversity in and of itself. What do you think?
And this is the thing. A lot of people get representation and diversity mixed up. And I think it's important that when we talk about representation, we're making sure that everybody is represented amongst the mix. So that might be the physical characteristics or attributes. But it just also shows, is there women in the workforce? Is there individuals with disabilities? Making sure that there's a diverse group of individuals. But representation is more the physical characteristics, not necessarily all the multiple dimensions that we're looking at.
Very good stuff. Now that brings us to inclusion. The action or state of including or being included in a group or structure. And there's also a little sub-definition here, Melanie. The practice or policy of providing equal access to opportunities or resources to people who might otherwise be excluded or marginalized.
Sean, doesn't inclusion sound like a beautiful thing?
It does.
And you know, I think it's really important because there is those 2 definitions. But really, when you think about it, it's the mix working together.
It's a very unique place to be.
Yeah.
Accessibility is a core principle of I.D.E.A fundamentals, exploring how creating an inclusive environment ensures that all individuals, regardless of abilities or disabilities, can access information, services, and opportunities without barriers, workplace and beyond. What do you think, Melanie?
Oh, you know, it's interesting because accessibility, when people think about accessibility, they think, oh, so much work, is so much involved. But really, truly, it's just making things accessible for everyone. Anyone can access things. You think of all the different things in our life, curb cuts, elevators, door openers. Yes, they help individuals with disabilities, but it's accessibility for all. It's amazing, isn't it?
Absolutely, but those are simple things, everyday things that we all run into.
That's exactly it.
Now, our next slide, we're talking more about terminology still,
Yes.
but we have a picture of 3 boys trying to watch a ball game here. There's actually 2 pictures, they're side by side.
Okay.
And one says equality, and it's got all 3 boys standing on a box, trying to look over the fence to watch the ball game.
Okay.
But the 3 boys are different heights. One of them can't see, while the other 2, one's barely making it, and the other's quite comfortable.
So, Sean, what do you see in this?
Well, equality is all of them having a box to stand on to watch this game.
Okay.
But one can't see, so it's really not equal.
Isn't, right.
Whereas equity, the picture beside it, we have the 3 boys, one of them standing on the ground, one of them standing on a box to watch the game, and the smallest one standing on 2 boxes to look over the fence to watch the game.
Oh, so now everything's equitable.
Everything's equitable. Everyone can see.
Amazing. Okay.
So some definitions for inequality: to the existence of disparities or differences in opportunities, resources, and treatment among individuals or groups. There's a lot of big words there, Melanie. What does that mean?
There is. Okay, so inequality, think about it this way, similar to that image. Yes, we're all trying to watch the baseball game. These boys are trying to watch it. So, but it was unequal. They weren't able, because they're all unique individuals. They're diverse. And we have to get creative and come up with solutions to build equity. And that's why we have the different boxes or standing on the ground, because it can't be, it's not a cookie cutter solution. Really, it's an individual basis. That's what accessibility brings into it as well. Can you think of another area in your life, Sean, where you see inequality and equity?
Oh, I think that occurs quite often. And it could be something as simple as going to the grocery store and seeing someone that can't reach something on a bigger shelf, on a taller shelf.
Exactly. So what would be equitable?
Making the shelves a little shorter.
Ah, but would that make sense in a big grocery store to make it okay for everybody? What if the really, really tall person?
Well, the really, really tall person would still be able to reach it. It would be about waist high for them.
Ah, but Sean, we don't know what their situation is.
We don't.
Right. So this is the thing. It's about finding that fine line of what's going to work for everybody. And that comes with open dialogue, having conversations, and really understanding the fundamentals of I.D.E.A.
Very true. Now, we do have the definition for equity here as well.
Yes, please.
And equity involves creating fair and just conditions by providing individuals with the resources and support they need to achieve equal opportunities regardless of their starting point or circumstances.
Yes.
Sounds a lot like what you just said, Melanie.
Well, you know, it's interesting because I think when people think about equity, it's about equality. But really, truly, equity is making sure that everybody has equal access and making sure everybody has what they need personally to have the same opportunities. When you think about the workplace, we hear about, oh, things are not equal or inequality. But really, truly, the workplace can offer equitable solutions for everybody to have the same success. It's just about that conversation.
It's a very good point. Now, some of the other terms that we want to go over here, our next slide is actually a nice little picture of some scales, weighing things out.
Yes.
And the first term we have is justice. Justice is the principle of fairness and the consistent application of policies and practices to ensure that everyone is treated with equality and without discrimination. What do you think, Melanie?
Well, here's the thing. I think, again, in workplace especially, Sean, we're always focused on having equality, having equity in the workplace. But what we should really be striving for is justice. Everything should just become part and parcel of our organizations, our workplaces, in the policies, in the way that our management, everything is structured so that every person has the equal opportunities to be just themselves in their own skin, comfortable doing their job.
It's a very unique place to be when you're in your own skin doing it that way.
And it's true, but you know what? I think this is the thing. To us, it makes like common sense. Well, why wouldn't you have that? But the way that the system has been set up for years before, it hasn't been so just. It hasn't been focused on justice. It's about what needs to get done for A, B, and C. But the reality is it's way more than that because we're dealing with human beings.
So get away from what society thinks we need to do.
Exactly. And this is why I find bigger organizations and corporations, unless they take the time to really make sure they're having conversations with their employees, that they may lose their eye on the ball, if you want to say. They want to do what's best for the organization as a whole, what's going to bring us money. They forget about the employees, the people doing the work. And they're the ones they need to be focusing on. Because if an employee doesn't feel like there's justice in the company, that they have equity and equality every single day, they're going to have problems.
I'd say they're going to have big problems.
Yeah.
But let's take a look at our next definition here.
Okay.
Intersectionality recognizes that individuals hold multiple social identities, for example, race or gender, and they intersect and interact, leading to unique experiences and forms of discrimination. What do you think, Melanie?
Yes, so the thing is, we're going to do a whole webinar on intersectionality, and I think it's important that we just highlight these definitions. And I know, Sean, there's a lot of information in this webinar, but we're going to break it down so it's a little bit more digestible. But for this, again, looking at that diversity image, those diversity images, we can't judge a book by its cover. We don't know what's going on inside somebody. Yes, we could tell if somebody's white, if somebody's black, if somebody is a woman, a man, if somebody has a disability or not, based on what you're seeing sometimes. But inside, you don't know what's happening. There might be different ways they identify. There might be an invisible disability. You don't know their religion necessarily. There's so much more to one person's identity that we can't judge that book by its cover.
Very, very important not to judge by a cover.
Yeah.
That's for sure. And now we've got the different dimensions of diversity.
All right, Sean, before we jump into this, I want you just to take a moment and I want you to think about yourself. And I want everybody out there to do the same. Think about who you are as a person, just before we even get into the dimensions, because we're going to break each other down, not in a bad way. We're going to dissect ourselves. We're going to look at the different dimensions of diversity. But I want you just to think, and when I ask you, who's Sean? What pops into your mind first and foremost?
Oh, there are many things. There's not just one.
No, give me a couple then.
Who is Sean? He's a guy that mixes music. He's a guy that helps individuals with disabilities record podcasts. Mm-hmm. He's a guy that does that with a brain injury at the same time. Mm-hmm. So there's many different things in there. Okay,
so I'm just going to point out what I heard. You shared what you do for people. You didn't really tell me who Sean was. You told me what you do.
Sean's the guy that helps people.
Ah, okay. And that's great. So let's dive into these dimensions now.
Very good. The first one we have, personality. Mm-hmm. And I'd say this is at the very core of our being. Melanie? Mm-hmm.
So personality, you think about that. This is the adjectives that we use to describe ourselves. So when you told me you're the guy that helps people, that doesn't tell me who Sean is. It tells me what you do. So who is Sean? I'll use myself as an example. I'm a kind person. I'm shy. Those are adjectives that would describe who my personality is. And these are ones that we kind of give ourselves, but it's also the ones that people will use when they describe you based on what your personality. So I can say for Sean, because I know you well, Sean, is you're outgoing.
Very.
Right. So again, that's your personality. That doesn't mean it's only who you are. That's what I see in your personality. Again, this is why there's so many dimensions, and we're going to break them down. So the next one?
The next one we have, internal dimensions. Our internal dimensions are those parts of us that we consider integral to our identity.
Okay. So now internal, that means not everybody sees them. it's what we know inside of us. This could be our religious beliefs, it could be cultural, it could be many things that maybe wouldn't be present and visible to other people. This also is something that can be used against us in a discriminatory way. So, for example, let's just say that somebody suffers from mental illness, they're having some challenges with mental health, and therefore they're coming across a little anxious, a little bit, and internally we know what's happening to ourselves, but the person that we're working with may not know that. But those internal dimensions are something that we're dealing with that makes us who we are, that sometimes people may perceive differently and can use it against us to discriminate. They may think, oh, Melanie's kind of odd, just based on something that they're observing. Doesn't mean it's true, but again, bias comes into place.
So really that's a lot of perspective based.
So when we look at internal, it's things that people can't see, but we know about ourselves. And again, that's why it's internal, because it's inside of us. So when we look at ourselves, we can think about, like myself, my background, my father's Italian, so I have the Italian culture as part of my makeup. But I'm also an individual with a disability. But again, perhaps somebody may not know that. These are all internal. Doesn't make me who I am, but it is part of who I am.
So let's move to the next level then with external. The external dimensions, those are the things that we tend to have more control over.
Yes. So again, internal, we may not always have control over ourselves. It just happens. That's who we are. External, so it could be like our education. So I chose to go to university. You chose to go to college. These are things that we're choosing to do to better ourselves as individuals. They make us who we are. So again, you've got the skills of podcasting, doing all the music stuff, whereas I have none of that editing skill sets. But you chose to do that. I chose to become a teacher. So these are external dimensions. And these are things people will see because probably they'll know about it at work. They'll be a little bit more obvious. This also is something that, if you want to express yourself, your gender identity, if you want to dress like myself, if I want to dress like a woman, pretty, dresses or whatever, that's something I'm externally putting out there. And you have control over what you choose to wear and how you choose to identify and express yourself. So these are external for people. And again, these are what people are going to see first. They're not going to see the internal. They're not going to really focus on the personality. So this is the external ones.
Very good points. Now the next one we have here is organizational dimensions.
Yes.
How are you classified at work?
Exactly. So you think about it. It's about your role. Are you management? Are you frontline? Are you been there for, how long have you been there? Are you brand new? Are you on probation? Are you a lifer? And also, of course, your pay grade. All of these things will also classify you in diversity.
And our last one here, Melanie, global dimensions. Our global dimensions are things that we experience with global events and activities that are largely outside of our control. And let's be honest, there's a lot going on in the world now.
Exactly. Think about the war in Ukraine and Russia right now. It doesn't personally necessarily affect us hands-on. We're not in the midst of the war. But I can tell you, we're all feeling inflation, aren't you?
Oh, absolutely.
Or think about the pandemic. We were all locked down. It was a global event. You may not have had COVID, but you felt the repercussions of it. We had to stay home. We couldn't commute. We had to wear masks, all these things that were put on us. So all of those dimensions will have a factor on us. It may not be us experiencing it hands-on, but it still plays a part of who we are.
Very important thing.
Yeah. So what does this all mean, Sean? Really, truly, oh, Melanie, there's so many dimensions. Why is it important? Well, I'm going to ask you the same question, but we're going to break it down. Who's Sean? Give me some personality dimensions.
Some personality. We'll go with the one that you mentioned earlier, outgoing. I am outgoing. I'm also very much the worker. Get the job done.
Okay. So is that your personality or is that what you do?
Yes. No, that's my personality.
Okay. All right. So I would also say that you're fun-loving. You're a very positive, warm person. That's just my take because I know you so well, Sean. But personality is the adjectives that describe us to others that might use. And I would think that would be something somebody would say. Now, what about external, Sean? What are some external dimensions for you?
External dimensions for me. I would have to say the way I present myself, my dress, right? I know a lot of people dress for success. I choose to dress for comfort.
There you go. Doesn't mean you're not professional, though, does it?
No.
Ah, okay. And what about organizational? You are the station manager of Voices for Ability Radio.
I am the station manager, and organizational, I am the top of the heap.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of people coming to me. What do I do? What do I do in this situation? How do I handle this? Things of that nature. And I've got to be the guy with the answers for those people.
Right. And so people may perceive you as somebody that is professional, that knows what they're doing, is confident and competent. Again, we won't get into the pay grade, but again, it's important for us to understand the organization dimension. Now, what about global?
Global? I'm going to say global doesn't play as big of an impact on me on a day-to-day, but it's the little things that happen in the background. You were mentioning inflation earlier. That's hitting everyone. So yes, I'm noticing that. But other than things like that, there's no monster under my bed keeping me up at night. That's a global impact for me.
Okay, so I'd like everybody to just take a minute and jot down your personality dimensions. Maybe just 1 or 2 points, perhaps some internal, some external, organizational, and global. And after you do that, just sit with that for a moment and think about it. Is this how people are seeing you, or is this how you see yourself? Because this is another really important point, Sean, is it's important for us to understand this about ourselves, because when we look at others, we'll get into this in another webinar series about unconscious bias, but we need to start to understand these elements in order for us to have this conversation.
You know, you reminded me of something I heard a long time ago, Melanie. There are 3 things a person is. What they think they are,
Yeah.
what someone else thinks they are, and what they actually are.
Absolutely. And I think this is important information that we need to really consider when we're ever having any conversation about I.D.E.A, because I think we all have different interpretations, we have different perceptions, we all have different biases. So coming to this conversation with open mind, setting the stage with all the terminology, making sure that we have this discussion so it sets the stage for the continuation of all the other webinars, I think is setting us up for success.
Excellent. So working together for workplace equality, we want to do things like addressing the root cause. And that's to combat inequality and promote justice. Organizations must identify and tackle the underlying factors that contribute to disparities in the workplace. Melanie?
You know, Sean, this is something, it seems so simplistic to me, but yet businesses and organizations are not doing this. So in order for us to combat it completely, we need to set ourselves up for success. We need to ensure that the policies, the procedures, and the leaders are prepared and understand this concept right from the very beginning.
So it's that tricky portion again of getting someone else to understand the concept.
And the thing is, in order for you to have a culture in a workplace that is inclusive, that has equality and equity as the norm, the leaders need to believe it, they need to walk the walk, they need to talk the talk, and they need to ensure their policies and procedures are set that way so that it trickles down for everyone.
The trickle-down effect, I remember that. I love that. Now, we're also looking at equity in policies. Implementing equitable policies and practices, such as fair hiring procedures, diverse representation in leadership, and unbiased performance evaluations. Now, these help promote justice and level the playing field. Melanie?
Yeah, so the thing here, again, as I hear these, as I created this stuff, I'm thinking it's just common sense, but really it's not, because for so long, workplaces haven't had that policy in place, that equitable hiring. They just hired who they thought was best, that looked like them, that was going to be aligned with what they were doing. But the reality is now we have to have fair hiring. We need to be inclusive in our hiring, and we need to ensure that we are making sure we're encouraging people of all different backgrounds and identities to come to the table, because then we create a diverse and inclusive workplace where different perspectives are brought to the table and productivity goes through the roof. But we need to start with the policies. We need to start with making sure the hiring procedures, that when we're doing performance appraisals and going through the reviews, that it's not just being done by one person that may have bias, it's by a group of individuals. Yes, perhaps the manager and or the supervisor and the employer having that one-on-one, but when you're hiring, you have a panel of people from diverse backgrounds that look at it differently. So ensuring everybody is represented at the table.
Very important stuff there. Now, the next point, this is one we've, I believe you and I have discussed many, many times. This is inclusive culture. We are looking at fostering an inclusive workplace culture that celebrates diversity, promotes open dialogue, and values all employees' contributions as essential for achieving workplace justice.
100%. When an employee can speak openly, freely, and be who they are and feels heard, seen, and valued, that's inclusion. Because again, each individual person has so many different parts of them that may not be able to shine through if they feel that there's any sort of bias or any stereotypes, things like that. It's important for us to make sure we're helping create a sense of culture in our workplaces where everybody can just be themselves. And again, that may be starting with the leadership, allowing those open conversations and dialogue amongst their teams. It could be having an opportunity for employees to share their thoughts in an anonymous way. There's many ways, and we'll get into these things as we go through the webinar series, but I think it's important for us just to understand the concepts at this stage.
Now, all these points taken together, Melanie, they come together in what can be considered training and education for a workplace. So providing training on unconscious bias, diversity, and inclusion helps raise awareness. It empowers employees to challenge discriminatory behaviors and promote justice.
Absolutely, and I think, people think, they hear the buzzwords diversity, inclusion, and some of the terms that we went through today, and they just think, oh, yeah, I know that. But training and education from leadership down to the employees is a necessity on an ongoing basis. It's not just a one-off, thinking, okay, I've checked that box, I'm done forever, because it evolves, it changes, and continuous education will allow the employees to be able to learn what's happening in their own workplace, because most training is tailored to the individual organization. But what we find is if companies are not providing the education and training, especially for their leadership, it's never going to happen in their company.
That can be very bad.
Definitely.
Now, looking forward, looking at workplace equality, how do we measure that? That's some of the stuff that we've got to get into. So we've got things like using metrics, establishing metrics and data tracking systems to monitor progress in promoting equity and justice within the organization.
Yes. Now, I want to be clear. It's not about checking the boxes. Okay, we have so many people from this background. Click, click, this many women, this many individual disability. That's tokenism. What we're looking at is just keeping stats and data of what's actually happening. So yes, so you definitely will have those stats of how many people from each group, but also then those opportunities to offer surveys for employees to give feedback. Because at the end of the day, the leaders may feel, oh yeah, we have an equal workplace, but the employees don't feel the same. So again, it's not just about the leaders, it's about the clients, it's about the employees, it's about the stakeholders. Everybody that's involved has to have a say. And that's where these opportunities of focus groups, different opportunities for surveys, workshops, and open dialogue with many different people that come to the table so that we can ensure that justice is actually happening, not just an imaginary thing.
Not just a buzzword.
You got it.
Now, the next point that we need to go over here, you brought up two terms that, to me, really bring this next one into focus.
Okay.
You talked about clients and stakeholders.
Yes.
And the next thing we need to talk about is accountability. Holding the leaders accountable for driving for positive change and meeting diversity and inclusion goals.
Absolutely, because again, whoever's at the top, whether it's the CEO, the director, whatever the term of the boss is, it could be a board of directors, it could be several people. If there is not representation and a diverse group of individuals at the top, it doesn't filter down, and it's easy for them to say, oh, it's not existing when you hear from the employees, the clients, and the stakeholders. But again, it's that walking the walk, talking the talk, and making sure that we hold them accountable. So if by chance, let's just say, you go to a company or organization and there's no representation of any individuals with disabilities working there, I, as an individual with a disability, may be concerned because it's, to me, not there's no equality, there's no justice in the workplace. But that's my perspective. But if it's something that consistently is a trend for the company and a lot of different groups are not being represented, then this might be something that the leaders need to be brought aware and answered to. And again, what you found in the past is you'll notice companies will stick with what they know. The people that they identify with is who's working for them. And that's not the way in today's day and age it needs to be. It needs to be diverse. It needs to be the best people for the job despite their backgrounds. Again, ensuring that we are not only having a workforce that looks diverse, that is actually inclusive, where they can come, they can show off their talents and skills and abilities and gifts just by being themselves. It's not something that we're putting together because we have to, but it's the right thing to do, not only from a personal and societal thing, but it's a good business sense. It's a good business case, in fact.
It's actually really nice to think about what can be done if everyone worked together.
Absolutely, and this is the thing. That's why IDEA fundamentals are so essential. It may seem so simplistic in that this whole webinar we've been talking about terminology, but Sean, it's about creating a basis, a foundation of how we move forward with all of these webinars that we're setting the stage for. And that way we're going to dive deeper each and every webinar so that all of you can definitely have an opportunity to explore these IDEA concepts alongside of us.
Well, you mentioned we were talking a lot about terminology today. And terminology is a good opportunity to learn.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm about to learn something right now with what we're going through, Melanie.
Okay, what do we got?
Most people, I'm sure, remember the golden rule. Do unto others as you would like to have them do to you.
That's right. And again, we were taught that growing up. It was to teach us about respect and kindness, to be kind, because that way others will be kind back to you. But the golden rule, when it comes to diversity, equity, and inclusion, is no longer acceptable. In fact, we now look at the platinum rule. Do unto others the way they want to be done unto. So it's not about what we think they want, it's about how to treat them the way they want to be treated. So when you think about it, Sean, you are a different person than I am. And although I'm going to always treat you with respect and dignity because that's who I am, you may also want to be treated in a different way. Let me give you an example. For example, in the workplace, if you're doing an amazing job, I may want to be recognized with an award and a certificate and be like in the spotlight. You may hate that. And you may want to be recognized in private. You may want to be treated differently because that's what you feel comfortable with. So it's really trying to understand what individuals want themselves because they are different individuals. So it's not the same one size fits all anymore. It's about understanding the other person. Yes, you still can usually treat everybody with respect and dignity, of course, but I think it goes deeper than that. It's really listening. Active listening is key to this platinum rule, is really getting to know the individual and their many different dimensions, who they are, the different intersectionalities of them as an individual. And that way you learn about how they want to be respected, how they want to be treated. And then that's when we have an opportunity for ourselves to learn about the other person and how we interact with that person. With communication style, again, I'll use an example. Myself, I'm a supportive communicator. That means I want to support and help empower others. I listen, I'm empathetic. My husband, on the other hand, is a direct communicator. He says it how it is, doesn't care about it, just gets his point across. A supportive communicator is somebody who tells stories to illustrate their point. My husband doesn't have time to sit there and listen to my stories. He's like, get to the point, Melanie. Now, for the beginning, for me, that was a really big adjustment because that's who I am. But I have to also respect the fact that that's not him. So we now have this communication style that when I'm talking about certain things, I can express myself the way I want to be expressing myself. But when it's something that I need him to listen to me and I need an answer quickly, I know I need to shift my communication style to be direct and just ask this question and then go into the story afterwards. So it's just a little bit of tweaking that needs to be done to understand who we're connecting with?
I'd say that's a little more than a little tweaking, Melanie. But let me see if I've got this right.
Okay.
So the platinum rule is actually taking the time to actively listen, understand what another individual needs, and then being able to provide it.
You got it. Absolutely. So again, still kindness and respect, absolutely very key, but going the extra step to take that time.
I wonder how many people are actually going to make that effort.
I'm hoping all of us will at least try. Again, this is something new that maybe not everybody has heard of, but we want to make sure that we're aware of this because it does come up a lot in today's society. As I mentioned, we're not all the same. We all have different needs and wants and desires. And that also means that as individuals, we need to communicate these when necessary, whether in our personal lives, our professional lives, or even in the community.
Now, our next slide here, Melanie, is kind of going to bring what we've been talking about together.
Okay.
But it's one of those slides where we have just 4 little graphics that we can talk about.
All right, let's go for it.
And it's the golden rule versus the platinum rule. So we've talked a little bit about it, but the first graphic is approach to empathy.
Yes.
This has a picture of an individual's head with gears in it as if they're turning.
So again, being empathetic is really using that active listening and using our compassionate side to really understand somebody else's situation. This is important for us in our daily lives and personal lives. Of course, with any of the people we interact with, our friends, our family, our partners. It also could be in the workplace though, whether it's colleagues, coworkers, or supervisors, managers, and employees. Even our clients that we serve or stakeholders that we partner with, having empathy to the situation that they're in will help us understand that platinum rule better.
Wonderful stuff. Now our next one is individual differences. Let's talk about the individual differences of golden rule versus platinum rule.
Okay, so individual. Sean, you're a man.
Yes.
I'm a woman. That's one difference right there. Our upbringings were very different as well. Right? So my background, as I mentioned before, my dad's Italian, my mom is Canadian. Your background?
All Canadian.
Okay. So there you go. So right there, our upbringings are different. And then, of course, we have our own dimensions of personality. Right?
Absolutely.
And then, again, different disabilities. Correct, Sean?
Correct.
See? Now, we have to individualize each thing for a platinum rule. So understanding, taking the time to understand, listen, and then putting that together.
There's a lot of work there, Melanie.
It seems like it, but because we're breaking down the concept. But once it becomes practice.
Once you do it, it's there.
Because listen, do you think about the golden rule at all? You just do it, right?
Exactly.
That's right, because it was put into us over and over again.
Ingrained over the years.
That's the word I was looking for. Thanks.
Now, the next graphic that we have here, it looks like a couple of little text bubbles.
Okay.
And it says communication styles. How does a communication style differ from golden rule versus platinum rule?
Oh, it doesn't differ. It's part of it. And that's
part
similar.
of,
It's,
okay.
it's part of it. Because remember, now, Sean, I'm going to say that you are definitely a direct communicator. You say it how it is. You say what you mean, and that's it. You're to the point. That doesn't mean you don't have some fun anecdotes to go along with it, because that's your sense of humor. As I said, I'm supportive, but you and I work great together. But that's because we understand each other's communication style. Now, when you have a supervisor that may not appreciate your communication style, you could interpret it as if they're being rude or offensive. So not only is the employee or coworker or the manager, all of us have to understand each other's differences and the different communication styles, which again needs us to do some inner work. And this is why I don't think a lot of people understand. When we talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, it's about ourselves first, understanding ourselves and those different dimensions of diversity, and then being open to learn about others. And it takes some time, some practice, but then it becomes the norm.
Now, our next place, since you're talking about norms, I think we have to go here.
Okay, let's go for it.
Workplace applications. Everyone's got to go to work every day, unless you work from home now.
Well, this is true.
What are the workplace applications of golden rule versus platinum rule?
Well, basically thinking about, again, mentioning supervisors, managers, and leaders need to understand what they're doing in their company to apply that platinum rule, because again, one would hope they're applying the golden rule already for their employees, and that means they had to take that time. But again, it's not going to be, again, the authoritarian leadership style. It's not going to be like, you need to do this, this, and this, and this, and then not care about that impact for the employees. It's like applying the platinum room, listening, as I mentioned, recognizing people in different ways that works for them, helping people collaborate in the team. So the way you lead your team is also going to be application, but then it's the coworkers as well, how they're going to interact with one another. And again, somebody may think, oh, I'm going to bring snacks for the team. They did some baking. But if you know that one of the team members is allergic to nuts and that the company has a no nut policy, obviously you're going to make sure that alter there. It's just understanding the makeup and the diversity of your team. Again, if there's a vegetarian on the team, you're not going to just bring a whole thing of chicken wings and leave it at that. You're going to have an alternative option. So really taking that time to understand who we all are, who part of your team is, and applying it at work as well.
So there's a lot of different relationships that you have to keep in order with this.
Absolutely.
Now, the benefits of bringing the I.D.E.A fundamentals into your life, implementing them into your life.
Yes.
We're talking about things like embracing the I.D.E.A fundamentals. Now, this helps you develop a deeper understanding of diverse perspectives and experience. This will increase empathy and fosters a more compassionate and open-minded approach to interacting with others.
Yes, and this is the thing. I think what people are, they may think if this is more work because this is new concepts for some. For others, it may be the norm, but for some, it can be new. But when you start to understand all these elements about human beings, if we can be open to understanding these, it's going to automatically impact us with empathy and compassion. And those senses inside of us will come through because now we're paying attention to them.
Paying attention, that's a big thing right there. So the next benefit of implementing the I.D.E.A fundamentals in your life is really about fostering inclusivity and belonging. And by prioritizing inclusion and equity, you can create an environment where everyone feels valued and respected. Now, this sense of belonging fosters stronger connections and a more supportive community. Melanie?
Yeah, so imagine going to a place you work at and not feeling like you belong, being an outcast. I think it can be in any situation, in the community, at school. You don't want to go, you don't want to be a part of it, but when you feel like you belong and you're being heard, seen, and valued, you're going to go and you're going to give your all. You're going to do everything possible. And ultimately, it allows for creativity, and that leads to productivity because you have diverse perspectives coming to the table, working collaboratively together to have something great. So it only makes sense for us all to really understand and embrace I.D.E.A fundamentals.
Absolutely. So another benefit that comes with implementing the fundamentals of the I.D.E.A concept in your life is it promotes personal growth. When you're embracing diversity and accessibility, it challenges you to expand your knowledge and worldview. It encourages continuous learning and personal growth, making you more adaptable and open to change.
Absolutely, and I think lifelong learning is something that's very powerful for everyone. I find with the I.D.E.A fundamentals, especially when I've been going through this journey, because it is a journey, is I've learned so much about myself and about those around me, and I've really been able to look at things in a different perspective. But it takes work. It takes time for us to attend webinars like this, workshops, to read things and educate ourselves. So definitely personal growth is huge.
Personal growth is probably the biggest aspect I can think of. So the next benefit we want to talk about is driving innovation and creativity. Diverse perspectives and experiences stimulate creativity and innovation. By incorporating I.D.E.A fundamentals, you encourage a variety of ideas and solutions that lead to more robust and innovative outcomes.
Yes, so when you have a diverse team with different perspectives and experiences, they come to the table, they collaborate, and they allow creativity to flow. Innovative ideas come out and different problem-solving solutions. This is when some of the best concepts are created, when you have that sense of belonging. And that's why inclusion, diversity, and accessibility are key essentials for any workplace. understanding it and empowering people to have an equal opportunity workplace.
So making sure that people, feel valued for what they are offering.
Exactly. And in fact, Sean, that it's been shown by stats that a diverse workforce that people feel like they belong and are included will put in that much more effort and come up with more innovative projects. And well, you know what that means. It impacts the bottom line.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now the next one. I think we're really going to have to go through this one. I really want to touch base on this one, Melanie.
Okay.
Because we're talking about something that supports mental health and well-being, something that we could all use a little bit of support with, I think.
Yeah.
A culture of inclusion and understanding promotes positive mental health. Feeling accepted and valued boosts self-esteem and reduces stress, contributing to overall well-being.
Absolutely. Again, think about it. When you feel stressed, when you feel that people are talking behind your back, or you're having a really off day and people are not giving you the psychological safety environment that you require in that moment, or they're not understanding you, what you're going through, you're going to shut down. You're not going to be productive. And you probably will take some stress days or maybe even go on stress leave. So ultimately, if you create this inclusive culture in the workplace and allow people to feel supported, whether that's through open dialogue, having a quiet room to go to when necessary, allowing for those breaks or flex time, whatever it is that company has in store for them, that allows people to feel more supportive mental health. And there's so many courses on it, and now it's a much more talked about topic in the workplace.
Now, we're getting into an area here where we're talking about the relationships at work and the benefits. But let's go back to the relationships for a second, because bringing these fundamentals in, you can actually strengthen your professional relationships.
100%. It's about respect. It's about understanding each other. I can tell you, I've had bosses that I've had amazing relationships with because they've treated me with respect and understood where I'm coming from, who I am, my needs, but also I felt comfortable enough to have open dialogue. But then I've had bosses that were horrible. They didn't understand. They don't care to understand. They were working 9 to 5. They were out of there. Who cares about Melanie? So the reality is, if we enforce and encourage these fundamentals and people becomes the norm and becomes embedded in the organization's strategies and in the procedures and policies, their employees, including the leaders, will have this down pat, and the relationships will be strong, which will lead to employees staying longer. They're going to have job satisfaction, and they're going to be committed.
So how do we bundle this up into a little package and sell it with benefits? That's the question.
Exactly. And it's so important because I think when we talk about inclusive culture, if you find a company that has an inclusive culture, that treats everybody the way they want to be treated, and they love what they're doing, you're not going to have staff turnover. You're not going to have people going off on stress leave or just talking poorly about the company. It's a win-win. It just makes common sense to me. How about you?
I think you're going to have a productive company there if everyone's actually doing what they're supposed to do.
Exactly.
Now let's talk about some other benefits here.
All right.
Things like, well, we just touched on it briefly, increasing productivity and performance, where the inclusive workplace will often see an increase in employee engagement. We're looking at job satisfaction and improved productivity.
And again, notice how it came out of my mouth, because this is some of the key benefits that I think, when you're trying to sell diversity, equity, and inclusion to a team or a team of leaders especially, these are some of the key points we're touching on, because that's what they want to see happening in their workplace, but they're not quite sure how to get there. And this is why I.D.E.A fundamentals, although perhaps people feel are buzzwords, it's in the tapestry of what an inclusive culture and a company is. It's right there. It's embedded into it.
Well, you see, that kind of leads into the next one, where we're talking about systemic inequalities.
Yeah.
And this is the one that I think a lot of people need help with because they don't realize it's there. But a systemic inequality, by actively addressing systemic barriers and biases, you contribute to dismantling inequalities and promoting social justice. So a lot of people don't realize it's there, but how do we help them? How do we bring that in?
Well, I think especially in corporations that have been along for decades, centuries even, they were set up in a certain systemic, perhaps a patriotic system for years, and it's been that way. You hear a lot of terms, that's the way we've always done it, or it's always worked before. So things that are bred into the system itself, and there's no wiggle room, there's no room for change. This is where if we can start to talk about I.D.E.A and get the leadership and definitely perhaps the board of directors or the stakeholders to see the positive benefits of I.D.E.A concepts, then the change can actually happen and we implement it into the system.
Implementing into the system is the difficult part right there.
It takes a lot of time, a lot of buy-in, but it can be done.
But implementing it into the system is kind of the smaller brother of the next benefit I want to talk about here, where it builds a better society.
Yes.
So implementing the I.D.E.A fundamentals in your life will expand beyond your personal benefits, beyond your personal borders, if you will. Now, that'll help society at large, starting with your little segment, I believe. But what do you think, Melanie?
Well, okay, so yes, we've been talking about the workplace a lot, but think about it in your personal life, in the group of people that you associate with, whether it's your family, your friends, the community. You want to treat them with respect. You want to treat them the way they want to be treated, but you also want to understand who they are. So using that empathy, that active listening to really get a better feeling, because then not only are we becoming better people, but we're also understanding people. So when we're out in the community, in society, we're more likely to have those interactions that mean more, that are more impactful, that also will help others grow and learn. And again, not to say, let's go sing Kumbaya and everything be wonderful and rosy, but it will help people get along better by listening and understanding one another and embracing and empowering them to be themselves. Embracing differences is key here.
And it's amazing how much you can cover just by actually listening to someone.
So true. So Sean, there's some really great strategies here in this PowerPoint. I'd love you to go through them and then let's come back and discuss after you've gone through them.
So the first strategy we have is cultivate awareness. Educate yourself about various aspects of diversity, inclusion, equity, and accessibility. Use books, articles, or online resources. Engage in self-reflection to identify and challenge your own biases and assumptions. Embrace empathy. Practice active listening and seek to understand others' experiences, perspectives, and feelings. Put yourself in others' shoes to empathize with their challenges and triumphs. Foster inclusive conversations. Encourage open and respectful dialogue with friends, family, and colleagues about diversity-related topics. Be mindful of your language and avoid making assumptions and using offensive terms. Now, there's a lot there in those first three. Let's start with those, Melanie.
Absolutely. So I think what is really important for us as individuals when we're talking about I.D.E.A fundamentals is just to take time and use common sense. Now, what that means is obviously being aware of ourselves and of others and taking time to listen and really reach in to understand empathy, active listening, and coming back to what that platinum rule really talks about, how others want to be treated and how we as individuals want to be perceived.
So our next strategies: emphasize inclusion in decision making. Ensure that diverse voices are represented and heard in group discussions about decision-making processes. Value the input of individuals from different backgrounds and experiences. Champion equity. Advocate for fair treatment and equal opportunities for everyone. Support initiatives that address systemic barriers and promote a level playing field. Address accessibility. Consider the accessibility of spaces, events, and activities for individuals with disabilities. Make efforts to accommodate diverse needs, such as providing alternative formats for materials or offering closed captioning for videos. Melanie, what do you think of those?
Well, I think this can be happening in the workplace, in our community, and definitely even at home, is really truly paying attention to whoever's making the decisions has diverse opinions and thoughts and views. So whether it's a committee, whether it's getting feedback from employees or community members, really being well informed and educated and considering accessibility every step of the way. Again, accessibility isn't just for individuals with disabilities, it's for everybody. it's ensuring that everybody has equal access, and talk about equality and equity, that everybody has a level playing ground to be successful and just be who they are. And I think all of this is embraced in what you just said. And it's interesting, you mentioned events. People take those for granted, but even if something that's happening in our community event, it may not be accessible. It may not be inclusive. It may not be diverse. But again, choice is everything. We aim to have inclusive events. We aim to have accessible events. But I think the more we talk about it, the more we educate, the more that we are informing ourselves, the more events will become inclusive as we go.
The more that we can make them ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So some of our next strategies are things like being mindful of microaggressions. Be aware of microaggressions, subtle expressions of bias or prejudice, and avoid engaging in perpetrating them. Intervene when you see others experiencing or perpetrating microaggressions. Seek out diverse experiences. Engage in activities, events, and organizations that celebrate diversity in different cultures. Read books, watch movies, or listen to music from backgrounds to broaden your perspectives. Take action. Participate in community initiatives and volunteer for causes that promote diversity and inclusion. Support businesses and organizations that prioritize I.D.E.A principles. Melanie?
And you know, it's so important here. You see, it's about us taking action, being accountable for ourselves, for educating ourselves, getting involved in different diverse initiatives, as well as understanding our biases. And I know in a future webinar, we'll dive deep into that, because I think this is a huge piece of diversity, equity, and inclusion. But I really think it comes down to, Sean, is who do we want to be in our own community, in our workplace? Who do we want to represent? And I know for myself, I want to be as inclusive as possible.
There's been a lot going on with this webinar today, Melanie.
It is. And I want everybody to know that this is setting the stage. We're laying the foundation. That's why it's fundamentals, Sean. It's a lot of information to digest, and I want you to take time and take some time to reflect. I know I take time on a regular basis to update myself, educate, and digest this, and think about how it impacts my everyday life. Because I think it can be a concept that is foreign to us because we're not actually acting on it and doing something about it. But the more we do it, the more we imply it and implement it into our lives, the more it becomes the norm.
That's a beautiful way of looking at it. And I think it's actually a pretty good summary of what we're trying to do today. We have covered a lot, fundamentals and terminology, the different dimensions of diversity, golden rule, platinum rule.
Yes.
Okay, that was new to me. So if you wanted to summarize all of that, Melanie, what would you do? How would you say it?
Okay, so wow. And I'll say wow because it's a lot of information. But I will say this, it's important information for us to lay that foundation and let us prepare for what comes next. I encourage everybody to take some time and think about, where are you on your journey for I.D.E.A? It's okay if you're at the beginning stages, because through this webinar series, we're going to help you gain insight, learn a little bit more about yourself, about the concepts, and definitely, please don't feel overwhelmed, because every step of the way, a layer will peel back and it'll be like, aha! And so please be patient with yourself. Again, as I mentioned at the beginning, there's no space here for guilt and shame. Take time for yourself and do what you need to do to make sure that you are safe.
Ladies and gentlemen, we would like to thank you very much for joining us here today. And if you would like further information, please reach out to Connect for Life at connectforlife.charity@gmail.com or Gaining Vision at gainingvision2020@gmail.com. Thank you very much for joining us today. I'm Sean Pickard.
Thanks so much for joining us. Thanks, Sean.
Thank you, Melanie. Bye for now, everybody.
Bye.